And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a new Redefining Cybersecurity podcast on ITSP Magazine. You're very welcome. And as you know, if you listen to the show, I get to talk about lots of fun, cool things with cool people who know much more than I do. And that's what makes it fun for me, is I get to learn and hopefully share some of those learnings through thought-provoking conversations with folks like Melissa and Anil. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's a topic that continues to get a lot of attention. In fact, I just yesterday recorded an episode with Alan Friedman and Bob Lord, two different perspectives on the same topic of secure by design and supply chain security, and lots of different angles to take here. And today, I think, for me, it's an exciting one because it starts to get into, well, how do we actually begin to address this big picture issue that we continue to talk about with some tools, I presume, to help us take some action. So I'm excited to get in the nitty gritty here. And before we do that, though, Melissa and Anil, I'd like a few moments from you each to kind of share some of your background, what you're up to, maybe give an overview of your role at SVIP and what the organization does. So Melissa, we'll start with you, please.
Great. Thanks, John. Well, great to be here. And Melissa, I'm the Managing Director for the Silicon Valley Innovation Program at the Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology Directorate. What we do within the Silicon Valley Innovation Program is to reach out to the startup community, identify innovative emerging technology companies that we could be partnering with and to help us solve DHS's pain points. I'm originally from Silicon Valley, and so when September 11th happened, I was called into public service and started at DHS about 20 years ago. So being from Silicon Valley, going into government, being a very different type of culture and mindset, trying to bridge the two has been a fun journey. And between that and having been part of the cybersecurity division prior to my current role, it really helps us to have a perspective on the need for innovative tools and technologies that can help us solve these difficult challenges. And so in addition to working with CISA over at within DHS, we work with a number of the different department operational agencies. So SVIP has a pretty broad mission to cover the rest of the department, but in this area in particular, cyber is near and dear.
I can only imagine all the cyber conversations you have. Thank you for that, Melissa. Anil John, sorry.
No worries. Anil John, Technical Director of the Silicon Valley Innovation Program. I'm a public interest technologist whose day job happens to be just that. It is, you'd asked about background. First job in government was as a technical lead for our federal identity and credential and access management program at GSA. Made the transition over to DHS as the program manager for identity management and data privacy. And then when Melissa started the Silicon Valley Innovation Program, convinced her and the rest of the S&T that they needed a technical director, and they somehow bought off on it. So my job these days is to, translate government to the startup community and translate startup and technologies to our operational mission set. As Melissa noted, our program is in the business of finding global talent in order to solve our local problems. And we are working with all of the operational components of DHS. And in this particular case, obviously with CISA, focusing on supply chain security as well.
And it might be a silly question, but when people think of government entities, they don't think speed, right? Fast to market is not the first thing that comes to mind. Let's just say that. Is the idea with this program to kind of help inject some of this innovative spirit and fast time to market with clear objectives and outcomes and maybe smaller bits instead of big, huge buckets? I don't know, is that a good overview?
Yeah, you should be my salesperson, John. That's exactly it. It's injecting a lot of the culture of kind of how do we get to solutions faster, and leveraging what's being developed in the commercial ecosystem, iterating more quickly, being able to deliver solutions and products a little bit faster, working with the end users so that they're involved in sort of the solution before it reaches the very end, before it reaches market. And the goal with our program is to help shape those commercial products, baking in DHS's requirements into that, so that by the time they reach the market, DHS can be a buyer of that technology at the end of it.
Okay, now another interesting point there. I'm going to stay here for a second. So this is identifying solutions good for U.S. companies as well as government entities. So not limited, you're not focusing on filling the government's needs, but or an international even. So finding good technologies to solve, and then in the case today, we're talking about supply chain. So solving supply chain issues globally.
Exactly. A lot of these challenges are not unique to DHS, are not unique to the U.S. And so the program does work with U.S. and international startups, as Anil mentioned. With the end game is that a lot of our pain points in the government are similar to commercial, retail, enterprise, travel, and hospitality. That by working together with the companies that are building those public-facing types of technologies, we can benefit from that as well. It's a bit of low-hanging fruit that we can leverage with the government funding that we have, and all end up with secure technologies as a result.
And I'll simply note, in addition to what Melissa noted, we do not want the startup or the small business to pivot into government. We want them to remain on their commercial roadmap, and the engagement that we have with them results in a product SKU that is available not just to government, but to the broader ecosystem as well. Now, we have some abilities to go and then acquire the technologies in a very fast manner. But in general, the outcome should be a benefit to not just government agencies, but to the broader ecosystem. In this particular case, all of the software development ecosystem, not just in the US, but globally as well.
Yeah. Rising tides, right?
Absolutely.
All boats. Yeah, because I remember I can look back at a time where I worked for a smaller organization at the time, but we had huge government contracts that took up a lot of effort from commercial endeavors, which kind of the priorities fought against each other, right? So I love this idea that it's a more collaborative approach. So software supply chain, I mean, people have heard me talk about this with lots of different folks. Your perspective on the current state of affairs, and then we're going to get into the program to kind of see how we can maybe change that as we move forward.
I think I'm sure there are much more deeper experts in that than us who have opined on this. But what has been real over the last number of years is there has been vulnerabilities detected in components of software that have been deployed within the enterprise, whether that enterprise is in the public sector or the private sector. So understanding what goes into software, the ingredients that make up a software package becomes very, very critical in identifying how to fix vulnerabilities in specific components when they arise. And traditionally, it has been remarkably difficult to understand whether you are in the closed source ecosystem or whether in the open source ecosystem, in what components exist. You don't have visibility into them. So it becomes really, really important first to ensure that you use some standards-based way of enumerating what are the components of software. Then also having tooling that can use that information, map it against vulnerabilities that come up, and see what needs to be fixed. And that's the ecosystem that I think we want to, through the projects that we are working on with CISA, energize, help, and move forward to provide much more visibility into the software supply chain ecosystem and what goes into software and what exists within the software that is deployed out there already as well.
So Melissa, can you tell me a bit about you call it a cohort, right? Startup cohort for supply chain visibility and software supply chain visibility. It's a year old tomorrow, I think. Happy birthday. Or at least the press releases from the last tomorrow last year, if that makes sense. So how did this program come together? Obviously, you saw the need, but was it immediately obvious for some of the vendors in the ecosystem to say this is a great idea?
Well, I think we for several years ago we actually got together with CISA and tried to think through how can we help, how can we contribute to the need, knowing that SVIP, our business model, is to help deliver capabilities on a much shorter time frame. But there's still being the need for longer term research and development that does need to occur in general. So we actually held an ideation workshop with CISA with a number of their stakeholders, as well as some thought leaders in the cybersecurity and software development community to understand, okay, well, where can the government contribute? What is our role? What should we be providing? And what can we contribute from funding companies wise to help with this effort? And so through that ideation workshop, we yielded to this need for software supply chain visibility tools. And then, like you said, we put out a call for startups. We had a lot of applications from around the world, and narrowed it down to the companies that we announced a year ago, right as RSA was kicking off last year. So it was perfect timing.
Was that Shark Tank like activity, or is it a little more low key?
It can be a bit Shark Tanky.
Yeah.
So we have the companies, they submit their application, we review it through a government panel, and if it's a good fit, we'll invite the companies in for a 15-minute pitch, virtual pitch, and that's when we get a chance to ask clarifying questions, and that's where the sharks come in, but maybe not so sharky. And do really understand, break it down. What are they offering? What can they do? What are they already developing that we can help shape? Are they going to be ready to reach the market in 1 to 3 years with their solution? And can they work together? Can we work with them together? And so, then we got a great set of companies that collaboratively developed something, and super excited about what they're doing.
And I'd also note that I think we also structured the solicitation to be beneficial to, in some ways, in producing capabilities and products that could be broadly usable. But we also did sort of a two-tier approach. One of them was we wanted companies to come to us with solutions that use software bill of materials, SBOMs, whether it is for capabilities that generated SBOMs, capabilities that provide visibility into SBOMs in software developer IDEs, in scene products, or as part of the visualization, that an enterprise has access to. But we also required them to produce something that we thought was really, really important, which is a common open source building block that sort of addressed what we saw as, at least one of the challenges in the software bill of materials ecosystem, which is there are, I don't want to say competing, but there are efforts that are looking at standards for SBOM that are distinct and different. In particular, for example, Cyclone DX and SPDX. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure through our contributions was make sure that the conversation became about what are the components of software and what are the vulnerabilities that could be in there, and not about arguments of the SBOM formats. So one of the things that we actually required in our solicitation was any cohort that we selected, any set of companies that we selected, yea, verily, go forth and build your visualization tools and things like that. But we also want you to work together on a open source component that provided a neutral translation capability across the SBOM formats. And in particular, we want you to get it to a mature enough stage that it could be contributed to the global open source community, software community as well. So that was our intention in order to catalyze and seed the market with both the tools that were needed and also some building blocks that could be freely usable, not just by the companies that we fund, but by the global community as well.
And in terms of the scope, so I'm looking at some of the companies there and their offerings. It seems to hone in on app development and pipeline involvement. Looking at, and it's obviously DevSecOps when you start to look at vulnerabilities and some of these things. Is the view contained to that CI/CD environment, or are you also expanding it out beyond that to kind of monitoring and response and audit and compliance? Is that the bigger picture, or what's the plan there?
I think in talking to CISA for our program, there is no daylight between our requirements and the requirements of our operational partners. So I think the capabilities that they were interested in ensuring that reach the market were things that were enablers for software developers. So from a framing from that perspective was, how can we make this usable to the people who can actually have an impact on software supply chain security? And one of the communities with the community of software developers. So there is a particular set of capabilities that we sort of articulated to them that could be integrated into the tools that a software developer uses, the IDEs and the like. Then there was the focus on system administrators that are obviously in that particular ecosystem as well. So how do you bring tools that provide visibility into the software supply chain for them? Then there was the more of like the generic visualization aspect of it, that is at the enterprise level, maybe an IT organization looking at across the software assets and seeing what exists where and things like that. So the framing was more about how do we actually help the enterprise and the people inside it, rather than, at least as part of this particular solicitation, more than anything, I would say more abstract.
And Melissa, I don't know if you can answer this, but in terms of, so the programs there, you have tools and technologies available. Is it the vendor or the tool builder's responsibility to push this into the market, or does the program also have an arm or a sub-program, or to help kind of bring some of these things together, to help organizations realize they have a problem, they need the visibility, they need the assessment, they need the tools to control this?
It's a team sport, right? So the companies themselves are responsible for commercializing their product. They're in the best position to actually take their solutions to market. They're talking to their advisors on how best to do that. But in order for us to help get these tools to the users that need it, we do definitely work with CISA as well as ourselves. We do an outreach campaign to try and build greater visibility of the capabilities that we're supporting and developing. We even have a demo week, SVIP demo week in May next month, May 21st, 22nd. So the companies are going to showcase what they're working on. And the goal is to get other government agencies, other state and locals, and any large providers, small and large providers, to see what's available and to see how they can take these tools and use them in their operations.
Yeah, and I'll include a link in the show notes to SVIP Demo Week. Looks like a fun thing. I don't know if I can go or not. That'd be fun.
You
fun
would
to
be
see what's
very
going
welcome.
on.
Hope your listeners can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they're all invited for sure. So you said the word operations, which I can't get away from a podcast with thinking about how to operationalize all this stuff. So I'm wondering, so you're also a customer, right? Looking to buy some of this stuff. So how involved are you in helping to shape and guide how some of this stuff will fit large, complex, distributed, remote, I can list attribute on and on and on, environments that are, let's say it's probably complex compared to maybe a small, medium organization that some of these organizations might be selling to. So how involved are you in helping to shape the capabilities of the applications to fit within the government space.
Anil, did you want to try?
Yeah, I was simply going to mention that I think, backing up a second, I think when you first started our conversation, I think you mentioned that it is traditionally very hard for innovative technologies, innovative tools to sort of end up within government as well. And one of the questions that you asked was basically, is SVIP a program that helps do that? I think, to provide a little bit more depth to what Melissa had shared on that, one of the things that we do as part of the program is obviously ensure through the multiple phases of the program that we do everything from validation of the technology, independent red teaming of the technology, ensuring that as part of our independent testing and red teaming, we make the product as ready as possible to be deployed within particularly a government environment, right? So, and when you have operational partners, one of the things that we work with them is, what are the requirements for getting an authority to operate on a government network, and can we do can we bake in those tests into the red teaming that we do, so that these products are fully ready to go on day one. And we also have an opportunity in the later half of the phase where our operational components, the customers internally or the products themselves, have the ability to operationally deploy the technology in a real environment and kick the tires on it before they make the acquisition decision. And from a government perspective, from a DHS perspective, one of the advantages to going through SVIP is that because we have a intensely competitive global solicitation on the front end of our solicitation, we have the ability at the end of it, if after the red teaming, after the validation of the technology, after everybody has taken a good look at it and know it works, any part of DHS has the ability to do a direct sole source non-competitive buy of the technology. So we are going through the process. I think we are shaping the product in order to make it available and useful. We are also providing a pathway for easy acquisition to components of DHS. And I would argue by us investing in ensuring that the products themselves are hardened and are ready, it also gives confidence to commercial buyers of the technology that these products are ready for prime time as well. Those are the ways I think that we sort of enable adoption of these technologies.
Geez, we're going to have government grade security now. We're going to see that in the marketing everywhere.
I think government grade security is, depending on who says that word, right, can mean one of many things. I think we mean it in the truest public sense, which is that it is truly ready for prime time. No,
I love it. And I'm joking, of course, only because I've come from a marketing background, military grade, government grade there. It's all fun and games.
You're not the lowest bidder.
Yes. All right. As we're starting to come to a close here, I want to maybe ask about the outcomes. I'm hoping that as you embarked on this journey, there was a vision for what you want to accomplish. First milestone, a couple years out, maybe 5-year plan. Presumably source some money, fund some companies, get some things into market, acquire some for use. Beyond that, or maybe some figures there if you want to share some of those, but beyond that, what are the real objectives and outcomes that you're aiming for? And have you started to realize some of that? I'm thinking, I don't know, better visibility. I don't know how you measure some of this stuff, but better visibility, fewer compromises. I don't know. Are there any metrics or things that you can kind of speak to say, we're working on our plan and it's coming through as we hope, or we're not and we need help?
We can always do better, right? No, I think we're on a good trajectory for sure. The open source translation tool that Anil mentioned, we're excited to announce at with OpenSSF and CISA a couple weeks ago, or that it was launched and is now available. So Protobomb is actually one of our first phase 1 transitions that we've had within SVIP. So that's exciting. And the companies, will be continuing to develop their capabilities and solutions and commercializing them. And, in general, I think if we can bring more awareness, more understanding to the value of SBOM in organizations. We also recently put out an SBOM explainer animated video for those that are less familiar with this space, but I'm sure your audience is very familiar with SBOMs and software supply chain. But there's a lot of organizations, schools that need to improve their cybersecurity profile. That the more capabilities that are out there and available to them, the better off I think we'll all be from those that are intending bad and harm and trying to make money off of people.
I think at the technical side, I think one of the things is for us, we're not in the business of funding open source software for the sake of open source software. We are a mission-focused agency. So part of the way that we structured our solicitation such that the companies do have to produce real products that are a part of their remit that are broadly usable was good. And that is on a good trajectory, as Melissa noted. Them working together on the open source was a little bit something that was new for us, and we were incredibly happy with the collaboration that happened with that cohort of companies that saw the shared value of doing so. And we are also incredibly pleased by the fact that it was submitted to the OpenSSF and was accepted as a product, which means that now that Protobomb project is now a official global open source with lots of eyes on it, contributors from across the world that can be leveraged because of its the type of license it has. I believe it is Apache 2. It can be both closed source and open source products can bake that in without any issues. I think that's a good success story and a worthwhile application of public sector funding in order to sort of raise the bar on security when it comes to software. So I think we are on a good track, and we hope to keep it on the rails.
Yeah, that's a good achievement. I'm actually chatting with Omkar from OpenSSF next week, so we'll continue that conversation. Well, this is fantastic. I guess for my audience is primarily security leadership. Executives, practitioners as well. So what can we give to them as a call to action, something they can walk away with today? How can they benefit from the work that you're doing here, operationally or otherwise?
So I think I'm going to echo the call that CISA is making on this. In general, I think even regardless of the tools and technologies that we're funding, I think it is important for there to be a demand signal that is sent to the software developers that SBOMs are important, so that as part of the things that enterprises are consuming, that you are also expecting software bill of materials to be produced and delivered to them, so that at a minimum, you have the ability to have a sense of what is inside your software. And I think that is the first and fundamental step, I think, that all enterprises need to step up to and do, because it benefits them. And it also sends a clear signal to the software development community, whether it is closed source or open source, that this basic ingredient listing is an expectation. After that, of course, tooting our funding horn here. We are obviously funding companies that are building software security visualization, integration into the development pipeline, integration to software IDs. Check them out. See if those products make sense. And even if their products don't make sense, look for some products similar to that so that they sort of fit in within your enterprise. I think it is really, really important that people sort of just have a responsibility in moving this ecosystem forward wherever you sit.
I couldn't say it better.
Come on, give it a go. No, I think you echoed Alan and Bob from my conversation with them yesterday in terms of have a plan and figure out how to start taking action. And to me, looking at the tools and understanding how they can fit into your environment is that most likely next step. Do you have resources outside of the tools, additional guides or anything else or other things from CISA that folks can tap into to kind of say, move it from plan to tools? Because picking a tool is cool, but you want to make sure it maps to the plan as well. So there's that kind of middle shim there in terms of how does this fit my organization and whatnot. Are there things like that?
Absolutely. I think the best resource, at least within government at this point in time, on anything SBOM, is CISA.gov/SBOM, right? And CISA is also holding and engaging very actively in the software development community through collaborations, workshops, and the like. And I think all of that information is linked to from that website and the location. I think that's a great starting point for the advice that DHS and CISA are giving to the broader community on how to move this forward. And I don't think we could add anything more than everything is there. So we will simply point everyone to that location.
Love it. And I will point everybody to the demo week, because I presume there will be a lot of stories and scenarios and use cases and Q&A and all kinds of fun stuff that even if you just sit and listen, I can envision a lot of learning happening there. So I'll definitely point folks to that, and hopefully they can join you there. Anything before we want to wrap? I don't want to wrap, but we have to.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate the conversation and hope to see everyone at Demo Week.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And thank you, Sean.
Thank you both. And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching this episode of Redefining Cybersecurity, and more specifically, redefining software development with supply chain in mind. SBOMs, our friends, the SBOMs. I think we all have to start walking around with shirts like Alan Freeman with the SBOM. Sure.
Yeah, he has dropped off many stickers for us as well.
I need a sticker. I'm always a sucker for stickers. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening and watching. Please stay tuned. A topic that continues to take up. I don't want to take up space, but it's an important topic that requires continued conversation. I'll put it that way. So more to come on this. And thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Anil, for joining. And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.